post this on my Instagram story a couple of days ago, but it's something that I've really been kind of rolling over and over and over again in my head. I'm an entrepreneur, and which obviously y'all know. And I was talking with somebody a while back about defining success. And so the conversation that we had went from my definition, so it went from my old definition to what is my current definition. My old definition of success as an entrepreneur specifically is being able to have enough money to do whatever you want, right? Yeah. Most people get into entrepreneurship. Most people, not everybody. A lot of people get into entrepreneurship in order to have, in order to be in, I guess, better financial standing. Yeah. My definition of success has shifted over the last year or two. The money is not everything. I've been blessed that my business is relatively successful, especially compared to what I was doing before I started. But my definition has almost nothing to do with money now. My definition is more along the lines of understanding that I have a level of freedom that most people can't have. So I have the freedom, if I have a headache, I sleep in and just, let a customer know, hey, I'll be there in a couple hours or I'm a little bit later. I don't like to do that, but I'm saying I can do that without serious repercussions as opposed to somebody with a 9 to 5. My freedom to create my own schedule, my freedom to manage my funds the way that I would like to, my freedom to be able to, here's probably the most important one, is being able to hire and fire customers. Yeah. You know what I mean? There are people, I don't have to work with a person that I'm not really comfortable working with. If you work a 9 to 5, you got to do what your superiors tell you. You know what I mean?
That's true.
And so that has become my definition of success. Is I define it purely as just the freedom. Yeah. Now I know money obviously brings a certain level of freedom because if you can afford, more, then you can do more. Yeah. But yeah, so I just wanted to get you guys take on that. I know we all have had forays into certain levels of entrepreneurship, so I just wanted to get y'all's thoughts on it.
Yeah, I agree. Money's not everything. I mean, it's nice. It creates options for you, but definitely freedom to move how you would like and how you can manage your time. Work-life management. It nothing compares to that because we all gonna get money, right? But that time when that's dripping away, and that little sand globe thing, that. You can never get that back. So
that's true.
It's good to just be, I think, to help people understand it does take a certain level of bravery to break away from that mindset of being dependent on a corporation or something that will let you go in a heartbeat. Right. It's kind of scary to break away from that because that's all we know. But once you do, and you see, like you said, that freedom that you have, because you can manage and you're in control of how much money you really can make. Right. So that's the beauty of it. Yeah, absolutely. So I think above and beyond that though is definitely that time management. Nothing beats being able to manage your own time. You're not locked into 8, 10, 12 hours a shift.
Exactly.
You depend on that. Because God bless the people that actually depend on that. And they have mouths to feed and things like that. God bless them. But when you can take that step, man, nothing replaces it. So I agree.
Yeah.
So what so entrepreneurship, and I you said definition, right, of success, right? And when you think about entrepreneurship and stepping out on your own, and Al, you said about being brave to do it, because this is against what we are typically raised and conditioned to know.
Sure.
Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. The definition that we have is rooting out that condition. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like you really have to get over a hump of comparing yourself to others.
Yeah.
Of other distractions that would not allow you to use the creative side that God has given all of us. Yeah, right. I believe that each and every one of us have a creative side.
Sure. I love that. That's
Absolutely.
true.
Either art, speech, writing, whatever it is, all of us If you say you have no creative or entrepreneurship in you, you're not looking hard enough.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, all of us have it, you know.
Sure.
And so when you said that yours have changed over the years, I want to ask you, where were you at prior to getting into the entrepreneurship? What was the springboard? Because maybe you can help me out. You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously, you know? Like what was the springboard?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Okay, so the way that I entered into the entrepreneurial field, I used to work at a plant. I was working for one of the big three. Actually, one of their suppliers for one of the big three, which is GM, Ford, Chrysler. We used to supply interior parts for my specific area was the Ford F-150.
Okay.
And so I worked in that job for seven or 8 years. I can't remember. Anyway, it was a long time because I started in my early 20s. And so there was I'll never forget, it was the craziest thing that broke me away from that. I was at a friend of mine's wedding, actually their wedding reception. And a mutual friend, we just happened to be, you know, carrying on a conversation about work, about life. And he was like, "You still working in that plant?" I said, "Yeah." So, you know, I'm driving I think at that time I was driving a high-low. And he was like, "Man," he's like, "You got to get out of there, man." He's like, it's too much money to be made. So he was a truck driver. And he owned his own trucking company. And so he wasn't local though, or else I probably would have tried to go work for him. But he was based in Chicago, and since I'm in Detroit, he sent me some information for some companies that were hiring. One thing led to another, and I became a truck driver. And so a few years after becoming a truck driver, I got injured in the truck that I worked for at the company. And so I was off work for about a year, and I decided during that time that I didn't want to go back and work.
That's awesome, bro.
Yeah, so
I respect that.
I do too.
Yeah, because it is. That's growth in that.
Yeah,
right.
man.
Yep. So I ended up putting some money towards a truck that somebody I knew owned, and I started to make payments on that truck.
I remember that.
And so that was the beginnings of me being an entrepreneur. And that business was one of the most disappointing, frustrating. Oh my goodness. I don't know if I've ever been that broke in my adult life. What's crazy is, here's the crazy thing. I earned more revenue then than I had ever earned up to that point.
Wow.
And but the cost of maintenance and bills and insurance and gas, and so owning a truck is an expensive thing. There's a lot of money to be made, but me just coming into the industry, not really knowing much about how everything should work. I got played a little bit by the company that I was doing business with. I was doing a brokerage under this company. Anyway, very, very long story short, I ended up giving that up, and I went back to work for another trucking company. So I took what I considered at that time a step back. And so I worked for that company for a couple years. And here's the really fun one. So both of you know my family. My grandfather was what many would consider a master carpenter. And he would teach me things when I would go to their house. You know, we would make, you know, little small stuff, trinkets. I remember specifically making a jewelry box for my mom. He showed me how to patch drywall and, you know, fix little things around the house. And I would be watching him. I remember there's a church that we went to when I was a kid, and he took me in there and showed me how to lay carpet and all kind of stuff. Unity Temple, as
Oh yeah.
And so while I was working for this other company, I got injured again.
Oh, wow.
This is crazy. I got injured again in a different way. I hurt my back. I was in a car accident. And so during that time off, I had just moved into a house, and I was using my garage as a workshop to do the woodworking stuff.
Sweet.
And so while I was off work, I had nothing but free time. And so I started creating, and I was just, you know, not even really thinking about it too much, but taking some pictures, posting them online, and people started to show interest. And so I'm like, why am I working for somebody else when people are willing to pay for something that I love to do, right?
Yeah, I love it.
So it started as, my company is called Willies Workshop. It's named after my grandfather. And
This is great, man.
Yeah, and so anyway, it shifted from what I do now is remodels, renovations, and home improvement. Mm-hmm. But then I was doing furniture, and the reason why I switched over is because the Black community in Detroit, I feel, doesn't deserve to be gouged in prices, right?
I agree.
Custom furniture is one of the most expensive things that you can put in your home.
Yeah.
Handmade wood, custom furniture. And I'm not to really toot my own horn, but I'm decent at it. Mm-hmm. And so my pieces wouldn't be like what you can get from Walmart or IKEA or whatever.
Stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. One of a kind. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And so I made a decision that I wasn't going to charge my people, my community, the people whom I love, prices that they can't really afford and still feel good about the purchase that they made. And so I said, well, what I'll do instead is another skill that I have that I'm very passionate about is fixing things. When I go to people's houses, I've been at your house fixing stuff. We've all. Yeah. So anyway, I said I'm passionate about that. I can still make my money doing that. I can still work for myself doing that, and I'm able to give people something that adds value to their home and not just some sort of fashion piece. Yeah. And one thing led to another, and I got my education to be a residential builder, and it's crazy. My boss at the time was like, "Listen, you taking classes, let's say, I don't remember how many days a week it was, take those days off or go get off early, go do what you want to do." He was very encouraging. It was crazy. And when I finished my classes, I said, well, I'm done with my classes.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
I'm getting out of here.
And real quick.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go back to, so that year, to go along with E's question about how you were just like, I don't want to go back to work. Help people understand like how that happens. Because some people be like, oh man, I can't stand work. I don't want to go back to work. But they go back to work.
Right.
So for you, is it like, did you feel brave? Did you feel empowered? Or did you feel like, I literally I can't do that. Life is too short. I got to do this. Like what happened like in your mind?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
All right. So I think I mentioned in one of our previous podcasts that I am a Thrillseeker. I'm a daredevil. Yeah. Not very many things scare me. Yeah. And so that's one factor. Yeah. It didn't really intimidate me too much to try it because I always knew once I had a CDL, a license to drive commercial vehicles, I got a job whenever I want. I can go get a job, in an hour. Exactly. So I felt like I had comfortability with something to fall back on just in case it didn't work. Yeah. But also, I don't have any kids. Yeah. I'm not married. Yeah. My responsibilities are to myself alone. Yeah. And so if I fall flat on my face, the only person I got to pick up is me. Exactly. Yeah. And so I think I have, in that aspect and probably in that aspect alone, I have that advantage over most people that I'm around. Definitely. Yep. And so as a matter of fact, I have a friend that started to work with me for a while and it didn't quite work out simply because he did have a family. And while we were building, I can't tell you, hey bro, I can't pay you this week. I got to get you. Exactly. That doesn't work when you got a wife and kids and all of that kind of stuff. For me though, I can go home and just, heat up some ramen on the stove and I'll be fine. You know what I mean? Yeah. During the building stages, the struggle stages. And so I took all of that into account and I realized that it's more valuable for me to try and fail than to not try at all.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
That is good.
I love that. And I think it's important for people to understand that it is possible for you to lean on your own creativity and feel confident in your abilities with your own two hands.
Sure.
Like, you know what I'm saying? I think people don't really understand the gravity of that, like how serious that is. Because like you're beautiful with your music. You do, your work with contract work. And I mean, the thing is if people understand what they could do with their own hands and their own mind, they will go a lot further.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's why it's beautiful, your story, because when you really think about it, it takes a certain level of bravery, and bravery is like, I don't care, I'm just do it. And whatever happens, happens. And you can't do that when you're single, you ain't got no family. Right. But at the same time, for people that are in situations where they're married with kids, they can still kind of play around with it. If that is the support of their spouse and things like that, they can play around with the idea, I got to try this. I'll continue to work, bring in income, but I got to try this too. Sure. Because that's what I do. Like I work a full-time job, but I do several other things. Yeah. Because you got to keep your irons hot in whatever you do, because you're going to land in something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But our minds are like muscles, so we want to keep our minds going in a direction that keeps us independent. So say, for example, if you did lose your job, if I lost my job, I have several things I could actually hone in on and make them very lucrative.
Right.
And so that's where my mind is like, man, why am I working for people?
I know.
Yeah. I'm an enterprise. Like, I'm, it's like I'm a businessman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying?
I like that.
Yeah, so you got to really think about that, man. Like,
that's one of my favorite lines.
It's a powerful line. It rings in my head because we are enterprises in and of ourselves, and if we just have I literally see what I hear about your story is I just hear confidence.
Yeah.
And see, it goes deep though because, and I love you mention your grandfather because we had our grandfathers in our life too. And that is priceless, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, money can't even and I feel I'm so grateful, and I don't like to even brag because I know most didn't have that, but I love to talk about it because having those men and then our fathers in our lives, uncles and things like that, and watching all those examples, we kind of piece together what it is to be a man.
Absolutely.
That is so true.
And when you have those gifts,
that is so true.
That's really, we are the living embodiment of those men. Yes. Like our DNA, what you're doing with your hands.
Legacy.
The legacy, that DNA. And I love you named that after your grandfather. Because awesome. I carry my grandfather and my father's name. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Right. And we just want to make our ancestors proud through our actions. Sure. So I just love your story because you weren't bound by the the typical thought processes that keep people confined and work 30, 40 years. It's something they absolutely hate.
Yes.
You only get one shot at this thing.
Only
you know what I'm saying? So I just love that, man, that so I hope he answered your question.
He did, man. I think it's awesome. And one thing that I do want to say, kind of piggyback off what you were saying, Al, is the impact. I want to go back also because what Al was touching on as well was, okay, so the audience can know that what did it take? But I want to know psychologically, like psychologically, what was the impact through that? Now, like you've explained the springboard, Al, we got that, right? But psychologically, what was you going through during that time? Was it a point where you said, I might as well give up or whatever? Like, what was the heat?
So you mean over the course of the entire process from then till now?
Yeah. What's the impact,
man?
Psychologically.
Listen, so I have had some of the highest highs, and I've also had some of the lowest lows in my life, specifically because of the choices that I've made to be an entrepreneur.
There you go. That's what people need to know, right?
It's
not easy.
Right, it's not easy at all.
Just let people know it's not easy.
Yeah. I remember once when I was in my apartment, Ethan, you were at my apartment. We were working on something, and I don't know if you could just see that something was going on or whatever, man. But Ethan literally stopped me. He was leaving out of my apartment and said, "Hey, bro, you mind if we have a quick word of prayer?" And we stood there in my hallway at my apartment, and he prayed. And I'm telling you, I'm crying like a baby because at that moment, and I'm sure I shared it with you at some point before or after that, but at that moment, man, I was facing eviction. I was behind on every one of my bills. Now, keep in mind, I'm bringing in, $2,000-$3,000 a week because of my truck, but I'm also paying out $3,000 or $4,000 a week.
Painful, it's painful. Yeah. A lot of people will crumble under something.
So my bills were just completely overwhelmed. I was in so far over my head. Wow. And that was a hole that I spent a lot of time trying to work my way out of. And that's ultimately what ended that particular business venture. Just the cost to earning ratio is just unbelievably crushing. Yeah. So anyway, but along with that, that's a big impact. That's a big impact. But it's one of the things that I believe and I hope will keep me humble no matter how far this particular venture takes me.
It's a character builder, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stuff like that, it builds like character.
Absolutely, because now I'm not at the point where, because I have got a certain level of success, which I'm not where I want to be by any means, but I'm able to sustain.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's the thing.
And so though I'm able to sustain, I don't have the mindset that looks at somebody who's still struggling or just starting out or whatever to look down upon them. My thing is, listen, this is what I did, this is what I went through, so let me try to help you up. You know what I mean?
Beautiful.
That's beautiful. My goal is to so actually what's crazy, before we even just started the podcast, me and Al were talking about, I'll just share with you, my uncle does real estate investments and house flipping and that type of thing. And so he was relatively new to dealing with contractors. And so since I have a lot of experience with home building and construction and those type of things, I've kind of moved into a consultant role. Simply because I don't want to see my family fail. You know what I mean? So any blind spots that he may have, I'm actively looking to try to jump in and say, hey, listen, you might want to keep an eye on this here, this person here, this job here, this house here, so on. And I believe that's just as important to my legacy as the actual physical work that I do.
Oh, man.
The people that I'm able to help along the way.
That's what it's about. Yeah, that's what it's about.
I've learned a lot about the uber successful elites that we see in our country and across the world. And one of the overarching character themes that people push onto them is that they don't mind stepping on people on their way up, right? And my goal is to be successful, and instead of stepping on people, strapping people on, let's go. We all can, you know what I'm saying?
Awesome, that's a whole, we got to have a discussion.
We got to.
Okay.
That right there, because I'm a firm believer that you can be successful and be a good person.
Absolutely. There's more than enough out here for all of us.
That's what I'm saying. Yep. You do not have to be cutthroat.
Absolutely. You
can literally, actually, to me, I feel like you can be even more successful than the cutthroat.
Yes.
Because a lot of times, I think what people that are very successful, what they tend to forget on the way up is, you literally are only as good as your team.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So, whoever you surround yourself with, whoever you're networking with, whatever knowledge came through and was funneled to you, a lot of times you're only as good as that. And if you got to crush people and destroy souls to get to the top, it's going to be lonely up there.
Sure, absolutely. And then, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just going to say, like, it takes you back to the point, what you said. Money is not everything.
That's exactly what I was just getting ready to say.
Because I read an article one time, man. They did an interview. I don't know if I probably talked to you and G about this, but they interviewed people that were billionaires, man. And they interviewed them at the end of their life where they're laying in a bed at a nursing home, right? And they asked them, what is the one thing you could go back and do over again? And they'd be like, I wish I talked to my daughter more. I wish I spent more time with my son. I wish I treated my wife better. They never talk about money. Unless you know right then and there, the money did nothing to improve them, because our bodies are going to fail us. So when you land there, all you really want is somebody to hold you. And, you know what I'm saying? So why not, through your lifespan, like really nurture the relationships that are going to carry you through life? And we can all promise anyone watching this that you will be successful. However you measure success, you will be successful, because it's nurturing those relationships, especially through entrepreneurship. Because entrepreneurship really teaches you.
It's about relationships.
It's about relationships. It really is. Absolutely. The money is going to come, guaranteed. Right. God knows the money is going to come. You're going to be sustained through your lifetime. But it's about the relationships, man. And if you can speak on that a little bit more with your experiences, it's just like, because looking out for your uncle, because I witnessed that the other day, it's beautiful because he trusts you, and that's the thing. And I was even talking to him before you got there, because, I was asking him about relationships and things like that. He was like, that's absolutely very important. And it's good to have people around that you trust, like his real estate guy, his investor buddy, he mentioned all of that. And he really let me know that that's really vital to the real estate industry.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So if you can just touch on that a little bit more.
For sure. So one of my biggest driving forces is building a legacy. Like I said a few minutes ago, I don't have any children yet. Hopefully, we'll see. Fingers crossed. But I don't have any children yet. And so my legacy is as of this moment, my legacy is what I do with the relationships that I currently have.
Definitely.
And so one of the other reasons why I named the business after my grandfather is because I am living his legacy. I am his legacy. He put his knowledge, the things that he knew and understood how to do, and taught me those things. And so now I'm able to, in a 2 generations removed, I'm able to continue that work, that knowledge with those skills and all of that kind of stuff. Awesome. And not only that, I'm able to pass it on to this one and that one and this one and that one. So I have a lot of people that I've shown, whether it's, how to change a outlet or how to change a tire or how to fix drywall or whatever. I consider those things a valuable part of my legacy. Those things, every one of those moments is very important to me because a person, there's the statement that you can give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, or you can teach a man to fish and he'll fish for a lifetime. Somebody that I teach how to repair drywall will know how to do that no matter if they go to medical school. They'll still, at the end of the day, if somebody hits a hole in their wall, they say, oh yeah, I know how to do that. Come on, let's just go run and grab the materials and so on. Long after I'm gone, some of the young people that I've shown things will be able to work with their hands in ways that they wouldn't have known if I wasn't able to share what my grandfather shared with me. And so relationships is absolutely top of my list when it comes to what I consider legacy.
I think people forget that, man, that the same cup that fed you, the same thing that was poured into you, you keep drinking from it. That can happen for somebody else.
Go back to the success, right? And is success measured? And I say it shouldn't be. I think it's dangerous to start measuring success because that's where comparisons can come in. We talked about comparison. Because Mike, if you're telling me by your experience of entrepreneurship, right, and how you're saying money, right? Money isn't a pathway or a evidence of success or whatever the case may be. But you found not trust me, I know you're not saying that if it's an opportunity to make some money, of course you're going to make it, right? Any of us, right? But
let me be clear. I want to make as much money as possible.
Exactly.
But that is not how I measure success.
It's your life, your whole. To me, like what you're saying, success is something that's a voice, right? Success is communication. Success is something that can be carried, from generation to generation. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people would carry a watch that their grandfather gave them. They gave it to their next son or whatever the case may be because that watch, there's a story behind it. There's a story behind Willies Workshop. You see what I'm saying? There's a story behind AV3 Art. There's a story behind my dad taking me to paint. And I now know how to paint very, very well doing that, right? So though I have a day-to-day job, I'm pretty good at the job, but it's not something that I really want to do for the rest of my life. And that's the reason why I think people that I would say is a high percentage of society has been wrapped around this 9 to 5, right? They've been conditioned in a way, which we're not demonizing it or anything, because if some people got to be workers. Like, you know what I'm saying? You got to have some workers. There got to be.
It has to be a workforce.
There has to be a workforce out there. However, if you get that urge to do it, how do you? How can you say it? What's the word I'm looking for? How do you? And I'm trying to be careful about saying this, man. Like, because people fail. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you get people to be driven, successful in that thinking in order to materialize? You understand what I'm saying?
Gotta take that fear factor out.
Dude, the fear is everything, like you said, man.
Like you'll skydive, you'll do whatever because it's just you have to remove fear from the equation, and that's life. You got to, man. Like as we live life, you have to literally just say, I cannot be scared. I mean, I got to just go through a trial by fire, and like it's tripped out, man, because people will think. I want to, I'm trying to be like Mike, you know what I'm saying? I want to be successful. It's like, you have no idea what I've been through. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you really want to know? Like, you want the highs and lows?
Yes.
Because once they see that part of it, they're like, oh, no, I'm straight on.
It's not for the faint of heart.
It's not, man.
Yeah, but see, like, that's awesome that you brought that up. So, what would it be? What would it take for someone? Would it be their own experience to say, okay, though I see what it took for him, but I'm going to come up to my own mountain eventually that I will have to overcome. You know what I'm saying? Like, Michael Jordan's success, and he had his cautions, his caveats, or whatever the case may be, dangers that set him on the path. And I'm not Michael Jordan. You're not Michael Jordan. But you have your own mountain that you're going to come against, whatever that may be. And like you said, that fear, is it the unknown? Is the fear of success? I think we talked about that in a previous.
Some people fear success.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. Yeah. And they fear like the idea of success and what responsibilities may come with it. You know what I'm saying? Some people don't necessarily want what they think success is.
Yeah.
You know, we live in an age where success is illusion of success is constantly thrown at us.
Exactly.
Through the digital age, you know, people look at celebrities and they think, wow, it must be great being that person. It's like, no, it's absolutely horrible.
Yeah, exactly.
It really is. It's horrible.
Yeah,
Because, I mean, you're constantly being judged. You're kind of being scrutinized. You're in the camera's eye all the time, you know. And I think it's imperative if you're going to really let that switch flip in your head, you got to just say to yourself, it's going to take some hard work.
Yeah.
Because anything really worth having in this life, it really ain't going to be just easy, man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. It's just not. I mean, like for me, like people look at, say, for example, the drawings that I do. They're like, man, how you do that? That must be easy. It's like, no, I'm 45 and I've been doing this literally all my life. Like, and the thing is, a lot of like, just like some of our favorite lyricists say, they be like, man, I got rap songs that never come out. I got like 1,000 rap songs. Yeah. But those are the ones that I practice with, and this is what you see on the album.
Right.
Like for me, I have a ton of drawings that I've done for practice, but the ones that I have put out or the ones that I've done for people, all that practicing I did made me feel confident enough to say, I can charge this for what I'm doing now.
Absolutely.
You know, but people I don't think really see that part, that element, that like those lonely nights, the ramen noodles, things like that. They just see like, wow, you out here, man. True. Like you not working for nobody but yourself. That's all they see.
But they don't see that I'm working 20 hours a day.
Exactly. Exactly.
I get off work, come home, and still do work.
Right.
Know?
And some people that's not for them, and that's okay.
Right.
It's okay if you're not a 20-hour person. It's okay if you don't want to work through the night. It's okay, but just I would say again to go back to your question, like I think for each individual we have to look at ourselves and say, what am I capable of, and what am I willing to do? How far am I willing to go? Some people want that 9 to 5 with benefits.
Sure.
Yes. And if they find comfort and they find a less stressful, it's reliable. It's less stress for them. So God bless them, and they should have that. Like there always needs to be a workforce, and we all know that. But for those that are really like, this is not for me, I see a greater purpose for myself. And you look in the mirror every day, and you know that. That has to be what flips that switch.
Yeah, sure.
You got to be like,
just predisposed for that level of independence.
Yeah.
And I think I just happen to be a person that I'm hyper independent in all areas of my life. One thing I want to go back to, you said that success shouldn't be measured, right? So I think that you're right as far as measuring success according to other people's standards.
Exactly.
But what I personally do, and I think most people do, whether we talking about work or entrepreneurship or family or whatever, is setting goals is a way to measure quote unquote success. So for instance, let's say I want to earn $1 million by 2025, right? That's a goal that I can measure. If I say this is my level of success, if $1 million is my idea of success, then that's what I would measure up to. Or I want to have a team that is 50 people strong by 10 years from now. You know what I mean? That if that's my measure of success, then I write that goal down. I have it somewhere, or where I can constantly
100%
go back to it and revisit it and make sure that I'm staying on task as much as possible. Then that is, I think, a reasonable way and in fact a necessary way.
So
to measure success.
Let me add to that, because that's a great point, because I'm in automotive, right? And one of the things, if you can't measure, you can't improve.
Exactly.
Right. That's the biggest thing, right? So the measurement is always that tool to get you to the next step.
Sure.
Right. You know, but if you're using that measurement for the wrong purposes, I think that and that's the key. You know,
I think a lot of people mistake measuring their success based on their own goals or aspirations, and instead they focus on, social media influencers or celebrities or just even other people in their own field that are doing better than them. You know what I mean? And so that 100% I agree with you, because I mean, we know that comparison is the thief of joy. And so if my measure of success is my own happiness, freedom, independence, which it is, then how can I be happy or feel free or feel independent if I'm constantly trying to see what Ethan is doing, constantly chasing after the dollars that he's going for, constantly trying to take his customers and so on. What you said.
Plankton.
Right, I need the secret formula. Stupid. But like you said earlier, you said that, man.
I messed you
up. Yeah, you just threw me off. You know I love SpongeBob. I completely lost my thought.
No. I got. But what I love is this: the stuff that we're seeing out there, man. And when you think of it, cut me off. But the stuff that we're seeing out there, like on social media and celebrity, you have to live like this because we all mature enough to know, like, just say to yourself, none of that out there is real.
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and that's a fact. Like, none of it's real because whatever their measure of success for them is for them. It's not for you.
Right.
Like, whatever y'all's measure of success for y'all, whatever you put before yourself is for you. So that's not real for me.
Yeah.
You have to look at the same thing for everything else. Like, the things that I put forth for myself is real for me. It's not real for you. So then it's just not real.
Yeah.
You have to look at it like that. Whatever is real to you is for you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
that's super critical. And I want to add one other thing to it. So you're saying it's critical for us to have our own goals, our own measures of success. What's successful, what I consider success may not equal what you consider success. Right. But what's important to also point out is that the limitations that I put on myself are the only limitations I have are the ones that I establish for myself. Exactly. So if my faith, my confidence, my courage, whatever, doesn't measure up to where I would like to be. Yeah. If for instance, if I want to be a celebrity, if I want to be a movie star, right? Yeah. And that's my goal, to be the next Will Smith, the next Tom Cruise, the next Denzel Washington. But I'm afraid to take classes to learn how to be a better speaker because I'm afraid of talking in front of people. Yeah. That's the limitation that I've set on, and I'll never go past that.
Yeah, that's
so
it.
Our stops are measured by what our fears are. Yes. And our success is measured by what our aspirations are, what our courage will allow us to get to.
That's powerful. That's ministry, bro. I mean, seriously, I can't say it any better than that because I think it really saddens me when people can't really see that for themselves. Yeah. Like when you can't really see your own potential because you're blinded by what you see from others, what you see other people. Yeah. I mean, I wish people understand what we're seeing online is not real. A lot of it is scripted. A lot of it is manufactured to get a reaction out of a group of people to drain their pockets. It's all money.
Absolutely.
Right. So 100%. If we really just take that all out of the equation and just say, what can I do with my own two hands? What can I do with what I put before me? If you simply just focus on that, you can literally be your own level of success.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But it really, when we talk about, when I mentioned earlier about bravery, a lot of times bravery takes just searching within yourself.
Self-aware.
Yeah, because if you're not brave enough to do that, it's not much else you can really be able to conquer. Yes. You have to be able to conquer those own demons. You have to be able to say to yourself, what is it that I actually can do? What am I good at? We all are good at something. But if you really focus on it, you're going to be great at it. Right. You know, because it's one thing to be good, but then you got to say, I want to be great. Because the things that I set,
best.
I want to be the best. And the things that I set forth for myself, again, say for example, my artwork, I want to be the best at it for myself. There are really a lot of different artists out there that are phenomenal. They do hyperrealism. They do drawings that look like photography. Yep. And at one point, I'll say when I started back with this thing, I said, I want to get to that level. And then I said to myself, but I'm really satisfied with the aesthetic beauty of what I do. Okay. And then I had to dial it back. Because I'm like, I could do that. I could do like art that looks like hyper realistic. I love drawing people. I love drawing particularly my people. Okay. And I love, just a lot of the nuanced things that go into that. But then I had to dial it back and say, I want to be the best at it for myself. And once I'm happy with where I'm at with it, then I will feel successful at that level. Yes. And then you kind of just work within that and be a good person in it. When you have your clients that come to you, be honest, be forthright, and all that to me is successful, man. That's a whole package deal. Yes. But if you don't operate in integrity and do things in a righteous way, then what really is success at all? It doesn't even fit in there. You know what I'm saying? So
one thing that you mentioned, one way to put it is doing something that makes you feel fulfilled.
Yeah, definitely.
That's it. That's 100%. A huge measure of success.
100%.
Just doing something that I wouldn't mind doing even if I wasn't getting paid.
Yep. Yeah. And I've done that. So you do it when you do it when you're not getting paid. Yeah. You're good at it. Yep. You're excellent at it, even though you're not getting paid. Yep. Because that lets you know that money doesn't motivate you.
Exactly.
And then
you're motivated by passion.
Yeah. There you go.
But then we put that money in it.
Yeah, it makes me more passionate.
Yeah. Your skills go up. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So we said something else too earlier in the conversation about being stepped on the way, or people stepping on others, right? The crab effect, so to speak, right? Where others step on each other to get to a certain level, right? One thing that I was taught was there in the automotive industry, there's haters. There's haters in any, you know what I'm saying, in any type of
corner of the world, anywhere you go.
There are haters. They're there.
So
you know, they're cutthroat, right? So
under the bus in a minute.
So my manager told me this. He said his trainer told him this. He said, "How do I get to the next step? How do I make that manager? How do I become a quality manager? How do I do this?" He said, "The reason why you're not getting ahead is because you don't share your knowledge." In the story, flat out. That stuck with me, man. That the more you share, the